guys, welcome to This Week in Nintendo News, which is a thing that I used to call this video channel series thingamajig, but haven't for years, but now that's basically what it is, one video a week, until things settle down a little bit. But anyways, that's what we're gonna call it for a little while, so welcome to This Week in Nintendo News. I'm your host, Bastion. Let's get to that news, shall we? First of all, a couple of interesting references about Nintendo stuff in pop culture have come out recently. I was watching an episode of Saturday Night Live, and there's this bizarre character called Drunk Uncle who tends to babble about things that when he's babbling about them, you can tell he doesn't actually understand what that word or term or product is, and he mentions the Nintendo Switch in one such babble that's just nonsensical. So that was pretty amusing. If you want to watch that clip, there's a link down there for you. And then the next reference that I wanted to talk about is a reference in Doctor Who. Actually I finally saw for the first time a previous Nintendo-related reference in Doctor Who that I mentioned in this video series, but I forgot. I hadn't had time or hadn't put in the effort to watch that episode at that point. So I just finally watched that, where he mentions Pokemon Go, which was pretty amusing and took me by surprise because I'd totally forgotten all about that. That there was a Pokemon Go reference. So that was pretty amusing. But in any case, there's yet another one. It's a very dark Super Mario reference in a more recent episode. If you want to check that out, there's a link down there for you. And our next story is very heartwarming. It's about, I think it's took place over in Japan. This kid really wanted a Switch, but I guess he was told by his parents that they couldn't afford one or something, so he made one out of cardboard. And surprisingly, he must have made it out to scale because his dad, in order to surprise him after he saw that the kid had made this cardboard version of the Switch, went ahead and bought a Switch and then hid it inside of that cardboard replica. It's very adorable. If you want to watch, I think it's a video or just pictures of the kid discovering the Switch in this cardboard thing, there's a link down there for you. This next commercial is fan-made. It's not even endorsed by Nintendo, but it is, frankly, way better than any of Nintendo's commercials for the Switch. This thing is amazing. Nintendo should contact these guys and say, oh, can we buy that from you, please? Because it's awesome. Basically, somebody is skydiving while playing the Switch, which is pretty amazing. I'm one of those people who actually would really love to go skydiving. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but I will at some point, but I don't think I'll be playing the Switch while I'm doing it. But anyways, if you want to watch that amazing commercial, there's a link down there for you. Another heartwarming story from Nintendo where this blind, I think Japanese kid, sends an email to Nintendo saying, hey, I really love to play video games, but I can't because I'm blind, but there is one video game series I can play, which is a series that you guys have done 3 games on. It's that Rhythm Haven? I forget what the heck that series is called. I've never played any of those rhythm games. But in any case, he talks about how, this rhythm game actually lets blind people play, which is really awesome. Could you guys please make more games like this? Like maybe one for the Switch or something. So Nintendo, of course, sends a letter back to the boy, but they actually took the time to do it in Braille, which is pretty awesome. So if you want to read that whole story, it's pretty heartwarming. There's a link down there for you. Our next story is about a fan-animated video short called How I Got to Goron City. And yeah, if you play Breath of the Wild and you've tried yourself to get to Goron City and aren't properly prepared, you will pretty well be able to identify with the experience this player apparently had. It's very amusing and it pokes fun at some slight illogical things. The thing about Breath of the Wild is because it's got this physics engine that's really realistic, the game itself is much more realistic than previous Zelda games, but there's this one aspect basically involves putting on different types of clothes and whatnot. For instance, I could imagine a similar video short where Link goes up to the Gerudo town and they're saying, no guys allowed, and then he just cleverly takes off his clothes right in front of them and puts on female clothes, and then suddenly like, oh, you're a girl, we'll let you in. if I were an animator, I'd make that video. This video is similar in one respect to that. I probably just gave the joke away. Anyways, you can watch it. There's a link down there for you. The SHEIKAH Slate in Breath of the Wild is pretty awesome looking, and I have seen some really awesome iPad and iPhone things, what are the heck, protective cases or whatever, that look like the SHEIKAH Slate that you can put on, and I seriously want one, but then I keep thinking, do I really need it? No, the answer is no, so I'm not going to buy it, but they are really cool. This SHEIKAH Slate officially licensed Nintendo item is confounding to me because it's just a sketch pad. You flip it open and you can draw, which, I mean, you can't even draw on the SHEIKAH Slate, which is bizarre to me. They should have, since the screen, the Nintendo Switch screen has touchscreen functionality, it seems like you should be able to draw on the map. You should write notes to yourself on the map like you could on the DS Zelda games, but no, so I don't quite understand the connection here. I don't think there is one. I think they were just like, we want something, so how about a sketch pad? But for you artists out there, this will be a pretty cool little thing for you to have. For the rest of us, I am not even slightly artistically inclined. I'm not buying it, so thanks, Nintendo. Our next story is about the fact that NIANTIC, who are the developers behind Pokemon Go, are apparently pretty dedicated to finding out who is doing the cheating and eliminate them. They have been soft banning them in a way, or what was the shadow banning is a term I hadn't heard of before until I read this story, but basically what that means is the player doesn't actually know they're banned. All they know is that for whatever reason, suddenly they can only find very generic Pokemon. They can't find anything special, any special Pokemon whatsoever. That's because they've been shadow banned. So if you don't want to be shadow banned, don't be cheating, don't be using special apps and things. NIANTIC is onto you. So unfortunately, Nintendo and Ubisoft had wanted to keep this game a secret and then suddenly surprise us at E3 about it and say, oh, by the way, just 2 months later, it's out. Instead of doing the thing where usually they show a game, they're like, but it's not going to be out for a year or whatever. This would have been one of those circumstances that they really love doing where they're like, here, and it's out now, basically. Which is something that they cannot do now because we've all heard about it at this point because there have been so many leaks about it, which is the Mario vs. Rabbids. And in case you don't know what Rabbids are, it's a franchise related to Rayman, which is over on Ubisoft. I don't know how these two different franchises are going to mesh well. We'll have to wait and see the full presentation, but the reason I'm finally talking about it is because, first of all, I think it was Nintendo Brazil just rated it, which means it is a real thing. So, it's coming out at E3. They wanted it to be a secret, but it's not. I mean, it's not coming out at E3. It's coming out, I think, in August or something like that. But they wanted to reveal it at E3. But unfortunately, we all know about it now. If you want to read more about it and see some official art from it, there's a link down there for you. Our next story is about the fact that one of my favorite games from childhood, it didn't rank anywhere close to Mario and Zelda, but it was pretty high up there. Castlevania is getting an animation series, and it looks pretty interesting. You might have noticed I've done some stories as we've heard rumors about the possibility of this thing, and the developer behind it says, I want it to be bloody and R-rated, basically, and so it looks like he got his wish from the trailer that I saw. Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see this interpretation of Castlevania. If you want to check out that trailer, there's a link down there for you. Our next story is about Hugh Jackman, who plays Wolverine and other such characters. He apparently knows and loves Mario Kart, or at least Mario characters, because he was shooting something in Tokyo, and the car that he was in was right next to, in case you haven't heard about it, in Tokyo, there's this company that has Mario costumes, various different character costumes related to Mario Kart, and then go-karts, and lets you race around in Tokyo's actual streets. wearing these costumes and doing Mario Kart in real life, basically. And so it just so happened that they were pulled up in the lane right next to Hugh Jackman, so he took out his phone and was filming them, and he was like, oh, there's Peach, and there's Toad, and he knew all the characters' names. It was pretty impressive. So anyways, if you want to watch that amusing video, there's a link down there for you. Our next story is amazing. Basically, a software company, a developer company, NCSoft. I don't think I've ever played a game by them, so I haven't heard of them. But in any case, the CEO of that development company has decided, you know what? Even though it's basically impossible to do right now because stock is so limited, I'm going to go ahead and buy all of my employees a Switch and Breath of the Wild. So it's going to take him a while to make good on that promise, but that's pretty awesome. I wish I could get a free Switch and Breath of the Wild, but I had to buy mine. But anyways, if you want to take a look at that story, there's a link down there for you. Next story comes from GameStop, and they say they are not even close to meeting demand for the Switch still. It's true. It's very difficult for people still to get their hands on a Switch, which is, frankly, I mean, I feel bad for those people, but that speaks well of the Switch, right? So it's bad for the people, great for Nintendo. And we also found out that the Switch is selling 10% faster than the Wii did at the same era of its release cycle or whatever. So what that means is, and in case you did not know this, the Wii, even though it's ridiculed now and everything, when it was first released, the first few years that it was released, it was hailed as this amazing, new, marvelous thing, and you could not buy one. I remember I got one like a year or two later because you just could not find one in stores for an eternity. The Switch is, of course, copying that same sort of thing and is doing even better, 10% better it's selling, so that's pretty cool. And celebrities are loving the Switch. John Mayer posted a tweet saying, oh, hey, the Switch is actually the best innovation for touring musicians since Wi-Fi, so that's pretty cool. The story is about the fact that Nintendo is not too keen on hacked 3DSs and is now going to start bricking them. So that is if you try to access online stuff on a hacked 3DS. So my advice is, if you do have a hacked 3DS, don't try to do online stuff. Nintendo does not want that happening, so they're going to brick your 3DS. So be careful. If you want to read the full details about that, there's a link down there for you. And our final story for the day is about Kong Island, or what the heck was that thing called? That was a movie called Kong Skull Island, which I haven't seen and I've heard mixed reviews about. I don't know if I'll ever see it, but apparently the director for it was a super huge Zelda fan and forced the designs of a badge that certain maybe military uniforms or something or other basically have the Hylian crest secretly hidden in them, so that's pretty cool. He apparently also designed some helmets after Metroid, so that's pretty awesome. If you want to check out the full thing about that, there's a link down there for you. That is it for this episode of Nintendo News. I will be doing a Q&A video, which I'll not release on this channel, but over on my Patreon. So if you have got questions for me to answer in that, email me at bastiontime@gmail.com and or leave a comment here, and I'll be sure to answer those in the video that I'll be making for that thing, or even requests if you have some kind of request or whatever. So let me know, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.